Hey there, everybody. Welcome to my channel. My name's Leslie, and today we're going to talk about Match Me Abroad, Season 1, Episode 6, Bring Me a Ring. This episode was alright. There were some good spots, some spots I could have done without. Let me know what you thought. Definitely, like the video and subscribe. And let me know what you guys thought and what you have to say about it. So I'm going to start off with Shanika because it was a really short segment. Not a lot happened. She's coming down to meet Nina for breakfast after the disaster of a date with Sala from last night. And I'll say one thing, this show is testing my memory of names because there's so many dates and things. But anyway, she described the date as a roller coaster. There were some ups and some downs, and she's not a fan of roller coasters. Nina can notice that she's not happy. She said they had nothing in common. There was no chemistry. Nina suggests maybe it was the language barrier, but Shanika says that was not the issue at all. Nina starts putting the blame off of her and onto Sala, and I didn't know he was like this, and he wasn't that way when I interviewed him, stuff like that. But I mean, she should screen her candidates better, I guess. And just because they didn't hit it off doesn't mean he's a bad guy. So Shanika brings up that she likes Noradine. They're still texting. That she was actually texting him while on her date the night before. Nina is like, alright, that's cool, but I have another match for you. And Stanica is just about not having it after the previous date. And she just thinks she wants Noradine. He has all the things she wants. And Nina's kind of like, whoa, slow down, girl. You just had one date and you've been talking. Don't put all your eggs in that basket. And Nina still thinks that because Noradine was her first date, that she has a lot to learn. That she needs experience, good and bad dating to decide what she wants in the future. But Stanica is convinced that Noradine is probably the man for her, but she's also nervous that he might not be serious and he could be wasting her time. And, that's because they've only been talking a short time. So, hopefully she gives at least another date a chance. I think that would probably be best. Plus, I enjoy her. I would love to see her on more dates. She's funny. I love her smile. I love all the things she says. So, I'm wishing the best for her. And hopefully we see more of that, next week. Now I'm just going to move on to Susan. She is having a meeting with Juan. It's been a couple days since her date with Carlos, and she wants to talk about the direction this is going because she is not impressed with the first two dates, and she's starting to lose faith in Juan, right? Juan says that Carlos said that she was using the dog as an excuse to not talk about things, that she was closed down and wouldn't talk about her past. She starts getting defensive. She's like, he talked about some things, I talked about some things. And I think she's forgetting about that moment she got real mad because he was asking about her past and she didn't want to tell him. They just met. She doesn't trust him. All that kind of stuff. She was definitely not willing to talk about her past. He also said that he doesn't think Susan wants anything with anyone. And she doesn't understand what gave this man that impression, right? And Juan kind of points out, like, it's your attitude. It's your attitude, sis, right? Um, we go into, like, kind of the confession or the interview part of Juan, and he says he talks to the client about these things so they can learn these patterns and learn to grow. Um, every one of her dates, and Juan would say that she's guarded, so maybe she needs to look into that. She thinks that she was guarded with Miguel and not Carlos. Um, but they're all saying that. And she was guarded with Miguel because she just didn't like him. And he was kind of like a terrible date in my eyes, I guess. I might have shut down too. Um, then he starts reading off the list of qualities that she wanted in a man. And, you know, Carlos checks everything that he was mentioning. She's still hung up on his age. But everything else, and you know, she didn't specify an age, I don't think. Maybe like a range. But, you know, crazier things have happened. So she gets very defensive and she's arguing, you know, yeah, he has this, but yeah, I want that, but, and, you know, he tells her she's not ready for this. And how she had brought up in the past that she doesn't mind being an older woman alone, and he doesn't believe that. He believes she wants someone and she doesn't want to be alone. But the only way to do that is to open herself up and let some people in. She's going to try, but she's picky. The last relationship she was in was very toxic. She described him as like a monster, which may be why she didn't want to get into it. And that's her right. But she could give him something like, it was pretty terrible and traumatic, you know. I'm not ready to bring that part up. Anything, but she just kind of shut down and got defensive and went home to feed her dog. And the dog was a good out. He did call her out, like, you brought the dog for excuses, right? It didn't go well. Oh, my dog. So at least he doesn't let his clients get away with things, and he holds them accountable and points these things out, because if nobody points them out, they'll never grow. So, you know, we leave Susan. She's going to give it one more chance. Hopefully the next date goes better than the first two. You know, everybody deserves to find someone. And maybe Juan was being tricky and saved, like, the perfect man for her for last, so he can put her through these things so she's ready for the next one, right? So that was all we really got with Susan, just a little catch up. So, keeping with Juan from Colombia, the matchmaker, he has a new client, and it is Chad from Tennessee, and he is 38. When we see him first, there's this gorgeous dog. It was such a cute dog. I think the dog's name was Dixie. Um, we find out he drives some kind of trailer truck, or he does something with tractors. I kind of missed like exactly what it was, but he says he's home for dinner. So what more could a woman ask for, right? Um, he really likes cutting grass. You know, they asked about his hobbies, and cutting grass is his hobby. Uh, he says he owns 8 acres, and his mom owns the 4 acres next to him. So he visits her a lot. He helps her a lot. We find out that his dad had passed away 3 years ago, and they were very close. And when that had happened, it put him into like a deep depression and a dark place and a funk, right? And he knows his dad wouldn't want that, and he'd want him to be happy, and he would say like, "What are you doing?" you know, um, get out and enjoy life and have a family, and you know they want grandkids. And the mom said she wants grandkids, right? So we find out also he's been engaged 3 times, and your girl cannot judge because I was engaged twice to the same person. I didn't learn my lesson the first time. So, hopefully I get engaged 3 times. That'd be nice, right? Um, he thinks that American women just don't work with him. I don't think he went into a lot of detail as to why that is, but he at one point worked with Colombian women, and he thinks they would be a good match. He thinks they are family oriented and loyal and beautiful, gorgeous, right? Um, so he wants to try that out. He's working with Juan because he doesn't think he could find someone in Colombia without help. He doesn't know the language, he isn't from there, so he needs guidance. And he likes Juan because Juan's easy to talk to. Um, he's video chatting Juan, and they're practicing his Spanish, and Chad is trying. It was a little funny, but he's trying, and I think that's great. How many times do people not even try on these shows? They expect people just to know English, so I thought that was adorable. Um, Juan says he's a good guy and he wants a family, so Chad is someone he's excited to work with. But he is worried because he's a country boy, and Medellin, I hope I said that right, is like a big city and party town. Chad says he hasn't dated in years because he's been cheated on. He thinks he got cheated on the first time because of a distance thing, so at least he has experience with long distance. Not that it went well, but he knows some of the challenges. And the second time he said she just kind of met a man in a bar or something. They didn't go too deep into it, and honestly, it doesn't matter because we're moving forward around here. Right? So, Juan's talking, he's planning on his strategy on how to therapy him into, a proper love life. And he's just going to throw him in there. He has Chad's first date picking him up at the airport right when he gets off the plane. But, Chad's willing to do this to get his love life out of the ditch, is what he said. There's the ditch, his love life is in there. We're trying to get it out. So, the next time we see him, he gets in Colombia. He's nervous, he's excited, he's getting off the plane. It's culture shock. It's his first airplane ride. His first time out of the country. A first date. He doesn't speak the language. Juan explains that he's doing this, throwing him into just a date right away. So Chad doesn't have time to overthink everything. He just has to do it. So we're going to see how that works. I do love Juan's strategies sometimes, whether or not I question them or not. He's creative. We meet his date. Her name is Maria. She welcomes him, to Colombia. She says, once you come to Colombia, you will come again and again and again. Like, you keep coming back. Colombia looks beautiful. I've never been. Shocker. Chad couldn't believe how beautiful she is. And, her first impression of him is like typical American from a Western movie. But she's excited for the date. So they get in the cab, and it's the awkward cab ride because, there's a good 45 seconds of silence maybe that they showed us. It was probably longer. So she asks him, what do you like to do? And this man says, I like to cut grass. She's like, you what? And he's like, I like to cut grass. And she doesn't understand what he's saying, so he's pointing to the grass out the window. And, like, he needs to get at least one more hobby, because I like to cut grass is not many people's hobbies. Like, I mean, I would like to have a friend like that, for sure. So, she says she likes to stay with her mom and go to the movies and restaurants, and that's adorable. I'm glad she likes to hang out with her mom. Moms are fun. Um, and they're your best friend forever. I love my mama. I love to do those things with her too. He says he goes to church, and then he cuts his grass, and then his mom's grass. And, I want to know, where's all these men who do chores for fun and hobbies? I can't say that I've ever met one. And I'm interested to know if there's more out there. Um, they're still talking, and in the interview, Maria says she expected him to be more extroverted. He's really quiet. And we hear from him, and he's just like jet lagged. Traveling takes a lot out of you. So he's jet lagged, hoping not to make an idiot of himself. Just trying to take it all in. So I don't think I would be extremely extroverted either. I'd be pretty anxious, for sure. But she seems like a great date for him, because she's just really making him comfortable and like going with the flow and kind of trying to get to know him. And she hasn't been very judgy so far. I'm excited to see, hopefully, their date next week. I'm sure we will. So stay tuned for that. So I saved my favorite for last, our guy Harold. He's gearing up to go on his second date. He's hopeful. She likes sci-fi, and so does he. He's excited about that. He did opt out of the suspenders at the last second. He was going to, which I think would have been fine either way. But he wants someone to like him for him at the same time. That's why he debated. But he just went with the matchmaker's advice, which was fine. He looked great. He was adorable. They walk up and meet. He says her name's Michaela. When she introduces herself, she says Misha. So I'm going to go with that for now. Maybe that's the nickname or the abbreviated name. Just let me know. So, Harold, anyway, he immediately forgets her name because he's nervous. And that's okay. She didn't seem offended. He gave her a hand-drawn orchid that he drew. And she loved it. She really liked it. She said that never happened to her before. And she had a much better reaction than Teresa. So I like that. We find out their date is a tour of an old water treatment plant. And they both seem excited. He likes technology. I think she said she likes old buildings, right? So they're just walking in, going on the tour. He tells her how this relates to his job. I guess he works at a nuclear power plant, I believe. And they're just casually walking and talking. Seems like it's going well. We get to hear from her. She says that she likes him. He's kind and clever. That he isn't normal sexy, but he's good on the inside, right? He says he feels really comfortable with her. So far, it's a really nice date. Later, we circle back to them, and he tells her how he's really interested in all the stuff that they're getting to see, And then the tour guide brings them to a flatboat, and they head for a boat ride down the sewer, which is kind of cool. I don't know if it gave me like Willy Wonka in the tunnel vibes or Pennywise vibes, but it would have been fun to go on the ride. They're looking at the ceiling, and he's pointing out the slugs, and she's like, "What is that?" And he's like, "Slug." And she says, "Oh," and like says slug in her language in Czech. But I definitely cannot say that. And in the middle of this, he like awkwardly like you can see the wheels turning in his head of what he's strategizing. And I know that look. I have twins who are both diagnosed ASD3. So that's why I'm like real interested in Harold's story. And I can see their wheels turning like that when they're trying to plot on doing something. So that was really cool to see. So anyway, he's looking, and he like picks the perfect moment, puts his arm around her, and she didn't seem to mind. She didn't flinch. She wasn't like eh or anything. And he's saying, the boat ride is an unexpected dream come true. He feels like he could say anything to her and it would be well received. He's, like thinking along this that the whole point of this is for him to find a wife, right? So he's thinking maybe she could be the one, right? But he doesn't want to get his hopes up. He's afraid that he's missing social cues and things like that. For me watching, I think she's having a great time. I don't think he's missing anything. I feel he's nervous and, really calculating on what he's going to say and making sure he asks all the right things and keeping on track. But he probably needs to do that. So I think he's doing great. So they finally get done, and he's excited to like have a seat with her away from the tour guide and just kind of like get to know her, right? We hear from Misha again, and she says the date is going great, that most men that she dates don't appreciate that nerdy side of her. They start talking about Comic-Con, and he tells her he met William Shatner, which probably gives him like 10 points in her book because she did mention she likes Star Trek. We find out that she works at reception at a spa. And then he like pulls out his book of drawings and sketches and lets her look at them. And she loves them, right? And that is so awesome because like his drawings and all of that is a part of him, and it's an emotional part of him, and it's how he expresses himself. And she appreciated it, and she didn't like, oh, that's cool, right? She was looking at him and telling him how great they were, and it was a really happy moment. Then like she tells him she works reception at a spa. And oh yeah, I already said that probably. But she said she likes to play video games, and she likes to play Assassin's Creed. He also likes to play video games, but he did not get overjoyed when she said that game, so he probably enjoys other games. He didn't really say. Hopefully we find out. And then Harold goes in and he makes his move, right? And he's like, I could have my hotel make us up a meal if you're interested. And, she says, yeah. So that's cute. And actually, I missed the part. He asks her if she's hungry and gives her a sucker. And meanwhile, they were drinking beer, and he like has to go to the bathroom. And when he went to the bathroom, she starts drawing a picture in his little sketchbook. And she added like a sun and the clouds. And he came back and he saw that. And she's like, "You can erase it if you want." And he's like, "No, it's perfect." And he said, "You know, it was just a house." And he was going to leave it that way. And she came in and added a few lines and completed it, you know, finished his picture. That was so adorable. I didn't mean to almost skip over that, because that was probably one of my favorite moments. It was so touching, and she's just like a beautiful person, and so is he. And I'm not like marrying them off already, but it was a nice first date. It was probably the best date so far of the season in my eyes, because he had so many challenges leading up to it. So, anyway, we leave them heading back to the hotel for the meal I talked about a second ago. And we'll probably get to see some of that next week. Excited. I'm really rooting for Harold. I really like watching him. Um, like I said, as a mom of autistic children, I often wonder what it's going to be like for them, you know, when they grow up, and what kind of lives they'll have. And, you know, my children are possibly, like, okay, they are definitely um, more higher on the spectrum or whatever. You know, they're level 3, so that's severe. I'm not sure what level Harold is. I'm not trying to diagnose that. But it kind of gives me an opportunity to see like how they might think and how they might feel and what ways I can help them in the future, right? So I'm really glad that TLC put Harold on this show, and it gives me hope, and I hope it gives other people hope too. You know, other ASD people, neurodivergent people, and us mamas out there trying to help them, because we don't get a lot of help and support, right? So, enough about that. That was the show. Thank you if you made it this far, and if you enjoyed what I had to say and want, you know, if you have anything to say back, I'd love to hear it. Please like the video and subscribe. Thanks, everybody. Bye.